I decline to be first in line for your corona vaccine. You see, as a member of the BAME community, we have always come last in everything, in housing, employment, education and health. We are so used to this that we wouldn't expect access to these vaccines to be any different. And we don't want to upset the natural order of things. So no thank you to being first in line for your vaccine. Now you say we're the most affected group, but that was because we were frontline staff as health workers at hospitals and care homes. So we were more exposed to the virus without personal protective equipment, which you, the government, failed to provide. Now you must have known and did know, but you didn't care, that with the right equipment and less exposure in the health sector particularly, BAME numbers would have been less. You knew that, but you just didn't care. But during your daily announcements of an ever-increasing death rate from corona, you let it be known that black and BAME people were dying from corona at a disproportionate rate. And this became the media focus, the high incidence of corona, which you say affects the black community more. And so subsequently on the news channel, almost every reference to corona had people of colour associated with that news report. And this was clearly intended to manipulate minds into making an association between corona and the black community. Because image after image in newspapers and the TV media showed only black people who'd succumbed from corona. Now, that all of a sudden, this Tory government became so concerned about the black community that they set up an inquiry to investigate why black people were more susceptible to corona, but couldn't identify any obvious reasons why. They couldn't identify why coronavirus apparently targeted the black and BAME community disproportionately. And note the speed with which this inquiry took place and the report was produced. If you believe all this, this represents the first time in the history of the Tory government that they even want to appear to care about the lives of black people. The Tory government has been deporting black people out of the country for the last 10 years. Even in February this year, they were deporting black people despite a court injunction to stop the deportations. You see, I know the history of the Tory government towards black people, and it is not good. In fact, you've told us it is hostile. Theresa May announced it publicly and implemented the hostile policy. She sent go-home vans into black neighborhoods. So we know you don't like us. We know you want to get rid of us by deporting our elders and their children back to the Caribbean with nothing but a leaflet saying how to act Jamaican. That shows contempt for we. So I find it hard to believe that all of a sudden this Tory government is now putting black people first, because this party has never done so before. Your response to knife crime was messages inside fried chicken boxes saying, "Don't stab people." This shows your level of contempt for black lives. This shows you have no concern for black lives. And it is more than a coincidence that with the emergence of Black Lives Matter, which came after your reports on the impact of coronavirus on black communities, that you now want to make sure black people get more than equality by making black people first in line for your vaccine. All of a sudden, you want us to believe you care about we, when you never have before. You see, we in the black community have always come last in line. We know there's a natural order to life in the UK, and we're never ever first. We never get prioritized. So why now? Why now? There is no way to rationalize why you feel the need to prioritize we as first in line for the vaccine, when government policy has always been hostility to we. So I decline your offer to prioritize me for your vaccination policy. We in the black community have learned to live with being last in line when it comes to social policy. For years, black people have been asking for equality in housing, education, employment, etc. And you haven't done a thing to address these structural inequalities. And now you want us to believe you have our interests at heart? You refused to give us equality, but now you want to make us a priority? You've never given us what we've asked for before, and now you want to give us something that no one is asking for. You may fool some people, but you don't fool me. Your policies prove your contempt for we. So I decline your attempt to push us to the front of the line for your corona vaccine. We'll come last, as we always have. Thank you for listening. Please share and subscribe. More videos coming soon.